Stocks explained for those who want to be rich. Let's go.
Ever scrolled through social media and seen people talking about buying the dip or investing in Tesla? Ever
Meme coin, Dogecoin.
wondered what exactly they're buying? Well, today we're diving into the world of stocks, what they are, how they work, and why people get so excited about them. So,
Dogecoin.
what exactly is a stock? Simply put, a stock represents ownership in a company. When you buy a stock, you literally own a tiny piece of that business.
A fraction of that business, 0.0001%. But yeah, technically you are the owner of the business.
Pretty cool, right? Think of it this way. Imagine your favorite company is like a chocolate cake cut into thousands or even millions of slices. Each slice is what we call a share. When you buy a share, you're basically saying, I'll take that slice of the company, please. For example, if a popular streaming service was divided into 10 shares total, and you owned 5 of those shares, you'd actually own half of that company. In reality, big companies have millions of shares, so you'd likely own a much smaller percentage, but the concept is the same. You might be wondering, why would a company want to sell pieces of itself to random people? Good question.
Well, usually they get this money because they need more investors so they can leverage their business, using other people's capital to fund their leverage, right? And then in return for that risk that you're taking, because you're the investor, you get a percentage rate off of your the money that you put in there, or whether it's through dividends or appreciation. But there's risks involved in everything. At the end of the day, stocks are a good thing, but you got to be really careful because the same thing that can put you up can go bankrupt and you can lose all of your money.
Companies sell stocks primarily to raise money. Creating and growing a business is expensive. They might need cash to build new factories, develop new products, expand to different countries, or even just pay their bills. Instead of borrowing money from a bank, which they'd have to pay back with interest, they can sell shares of their company.
Exactly. I think at the end of the day, the people who really get rich off of stocks alone are people who buy something really, really early, so they have to have really good timing, and then they reinvest that money for years. This is one case, and they're putting money like almost every month, and they have a considerable amount of money, and then like 10 years down the line, they 10x or 100x or 1000x that money if they invest in good stocks. Because if you just invest in S&P 500, and if you don't have say for example, people like to talk about S&P 500, right? Which is good, but if you don't have a really considerable starting capital, I wouldn't say you're gonna make some considerable amount of money with S&P, because S&P is already, in my personal opinion, for the rich people, for the rich person or somebody who's already well off, who already has a portfolio. If you're starting with $100, I don't think personally it's a good idea for you to just reinvest all of it in S&P. I feel like, if you can only reinvest $100 a month, the worst thing you can do is just put out your money in there, because it's probably not gonna get you anywhere like near trying to get rich or something.
The money they get from selling
Oh my god, these fucking noise, bro! Every time I record a video, look at that.
these shares doesn't need to be paid back. It's theirs to keep and use. Let me break this down with a story about Maya and her dream sneaker store. Maya wants to open Fresh Kicks, a store selling limited edition sneakers, but she's calculated.
So for example, this is the first case, right? And then the second case will be the people who are opening their company for the market so that they can get the investors. And if the company goes well, they're the ones who are actually going to get rich. You're just going to get a slice of that pie, best case scenario.
That she needs
But that depends on so many factors, of course.
$100,000 to get started. Unfortunately, she only has $50,000 saved up. Instead of taking out a loan, Maya decides to divide her business into 10 equal shares. Since she's putting in $50,000, she keeps 5 shares for herself. Each share is worth $10,000, so she sells the other 5 shares to people who believe her sneaker shop will be successful. Jordan, a sneakerhead, hears about Maya's business plan and thinks, this could revolutionize the local sneaker scene. He buys 1 share for $10,000, which means he now owns 10% of Fresh Kicks. With the money from Jordan and 4 other investors, Maya now has her $100,000 and can open her dream sneaker store.
Exactly.
Fast forward 5 years, Fresh Kicks is absolutely crushing it. Maya has opened 3 more locations, and the business that was once worth $100,000 is now valued at $300,000. Remember Jordan who invested $10,000 for one share? His 10% ownership is now worth $30,000.
Exactly. That is if only he invested that money in the first time and then he never touched it again. The thing is, if he reinvests the money and then the stock go up, because the best case scenario, I think, in stocks is now you investing once again and then waiting 5 years for that small capital. You have to keep reinvesting, especially if it goes down. If it goes down and it's a good company, of course, not a shitty company, and you keep reinvesting, you're buying cheaper stocks. When it goes up again, you make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70% off that capital, plus the dividends or plus options, because some people, they do options as well in trading to get an extra income. For example, cash secured put, which is a option strategy, right? Of course, it locks up your appreciation depending on how much you use it, but it's still an extra income strategy for you, for example. But that's the best case scenario for me. Just put monthly, for example. You have to always have cash flow ready to like rotate and almost work like a cash flow machine, so that within 5 years, if the business does not go bankrupt, you're gonna get a considerable amount of money. Because what people don't talk about in these videos is the inflation. So even though you have initially 10,000 and you turn that into 30,000, 30 grand or whatever, in 5 years, the money is going to be depreciated because of inflation. So you have to beat inflation. If you don't beat inflation, then you're at break even, the maximum,
Decides to sell his share, he'd make a $20,000 profit. Not bad, right? But investing isn't always a success story. What if Fresh Kicks struggled to compete with online retailers and the business value dropped to $80,000? Jordan's share would then only be worth $8,000, meaning he lost $2,000 of his investment.
Exactly, which is not that bad, to be honest, if they lose too much. Because the worst case scenario is if he would lose everything, right?
Ouch. This is exactly how stocks work in the real world, just on a much larger scale. Some companies also share their profits directly with shareholders through what's called dividends. It's like getting a slice of the profits just for being an owner. So where do people go shopping for these company slices? They go to what's called a stock exchange. Think of a stock exchange like a marketplace where people can buy and sell shares.
Dude, if you look at Google skyrocketed. Let's look up Google. Google stock. Let's try to take a look at this. USD. So right now it's at 384. If you had bought Google in 2014, you would have spent for one stock $27.92 USD. But fast forward almost 12 years later, the stock is worth almost $400. So it's 393 USD. Essentially, what, the 15x, 17x more or less ish. Yeah. So this is a good scenario, right? This is a good scenario from Google, because Google is one of the top leading companies in the world, if not the top tech company ever, along with, I don't know, maybe OpenAI and Facebook, etc. But yeah, this is a good story. Now there are bad stories as well. People buying stock on the higher high, and then it goes down, and then the company files for bankruptcy. So you got to be careful with all these things. But yeah.
The most famous ones are the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, and NASDAQ. These days, you don't have to physically go there. You can buy stocks right from your phone through investing apps. When a company gets big enough, like if Fresh Kicks expanded into a national chain with hundreds of stores, it might go public by listing on a stock exchange. This allows anyone to easily buy and sell shares of the company. Now, not all stocks are created equal. When companies issue stocks, they typically come in 2 main flavors: common stock and preferred stock. Think of them like regular tickets and VIP tickets to the same concert. They both get you in, but with different perks. Common stock. Common stock is what most people think of when they hear stocks. When you own common stock, you get voting rights. That means you can actually vote on important company decisions and help elect the board of directors. Got one share?
Yeah, this is half true because you're not gonna be actually voting on the major decisions of the company. You have the right to vote, but it's not like you have a lot of weight because ultimately you're never gonna own more than 51% of the company unless you own the company. Because if you have 5% of equity, if you have 3% equity, you have the right to vote, but it's just a minor right to vote. It's not something that's going to change the company. You're never going to be like the major CEO of the company or whatever, because at the end of the day, you're just a stockholder or a shareholder. It really depends, unless you have, like I said, more than 50% off the shares for yourself, for example. Then that's a whole different story, but that's not the case with most investors.
That's one vote. Got 1,000 shares? That's 1,000 votes. You might receive dividends, but these aren't guaranteed. If the company has a rough year, they might decide not to pay dividends at all. The big advantage? Common stocks typically have the highest potential for growth. If the company does really well over time, your common shares could skyrocket in value.
Which makes me think if stocks is just a more formal way of gambling, and which makes me think that everything in a sense is like gambling, because people talk about, casino, right? And of course the casino alone, if you're just investing quote unquote, putting your money in a casino on the roulette, for example, of course you're gambling, but at the same time I feel like you investing in a company which has foundations and everything. It's a physical place for the most part. It is not the same thing as a casino gambling, but it does not exclude away the luck factor that you have to have, because when you put money in a stock, you are assuming that in in a certain amount of time, say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're gonna have a certain amount of success in that company so that your money can be appreciated during this certain time. So in a way, it's also a little bit of gambling, because nobody knows for sure what's going to happen in the future, which makes me think that even to invest in stocks, I do believe that you got to be a little lucky to become successful, because it's not that you're just putting your money blindly in some stock or whatever. There's a lot of good companies out there, but a good company today may not be a good company tomorrow. So that's why people talk about diversification. But if you don't have a lot of money, the worst thing you're going to do is diversify, because you don't have a lot of money. So it's really complicated, right? It's really complicated. Like, there's a whole process to how this thing works. I feel like you got to think in stocks like a set of factors. So you have to save up some monthly amount every time, right? To put in the stocks, and then keep doing this every month for a certain amount of years. You have to keep specializing in your work, in your career, so that you can earn more money, because this is just, for example, you're not going to make money out of thin air with stocks. Ideally, you need to be making a good money already in your work or whatever thing you do, whether it's your career or your business owner or whatever, to reinvest in there. Because if you only have 1,000 to invest every month, it's better for you to work to specialize, and then you now make, for example, 10,000 a month, then you earning 3,000 a month, and then you can only invest 1,000, because that's however much you can save up every month. You know what I'm saying? More or less what I'm trying to say. So it's better for you to earn 10,000, and then out of this 10,000 you save up 7,000, more or less, right? Or 5,000, and then it's going to make you compound much more than you just thinking on just putting $10 here, $10 there, because ultimately a stock is like a leverage to what you already own. If you own nothing, you're going to get a little bit out of nothing. If you own a lot, you're going to get a lot more, because now you own a lot. So that thing comes before the stocks.
The downside? Higher risk. If the company goes bankrupt, common stockholders are literally the last in line to get paid after all the debts are settled. Sometimes that means getting nothing at all. Preferred stock. Preferred stock is like the responsible older sibling of common stock. Here's what makes it different. Preferred stockholders usually don't get to vote on company matters. You're giving up that influence in exchange for other benefits. The big perk? Guaranteed dividends. Preferred stockholders get their dividend payments before common stockholders, and these dividends are usually fixed and reliable. If you're looking for steady income, this is attractive. If the company goes bankrupt, Preferred stockholders stand in line ahead of common stockholders, but still behind people the company owes debts to. Think of preferred stock as a middle ground between stocks and bonds. Less risky than common stock, but typically with less growth potential too. So, which is better? It depends on what you're looking for.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to investing. It depends on your profile and what you want, how much money you have, how much money you're gonna put every month. What's your financial situation? There's a lot of things involved.
If you want maximum growth potential and don't mind the risk, common stocks might be your jam. If you want more reliable income and less drama, preferred stocks might be more your style. Why would anyone want to put their hard-earned money into stocks?
Because they want to make more money.
When they could just keep it safe in a bank account. Simple.
Higher interest rate.
Potential growth. While a bank might give you 1 to 2% interest annually, stocks have historically returned around 7 to 10% per year on average over the long term. Of course, that comes with more risk. The stock market can be a wild roller coaster ride. Some people invest in stocks for the long term, hoping the companies grow over many years. Others try to make quicker profits by trading, buying and selling stocks more frequently based on price changes.
There's the third one, which could be a mix of you're both a trader and an investor at the same time, because you can make some money with the options or with the stocks or whatever, then reinvest the money into long term. So it's like you have two portfolios. You have one portfolio for your tradings, and that you can make somewhat of a capital every month, and then you take some of that money and then you invest some of this money for the long term, and now you have two streams of income, more or less ish,
Final thoughts. So there you have it. Stocks in a nutshell. Remember, when you buy a stock, you're not just buying a random thing that goes up and down in price. You're buying actual ownership in a real business.
Exactly.
If you're thinking about investing, start with companies you understand and believe in, and don't put all your money in one stock. That's like putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, but that depends again on your situation. If you only have $100, it's going to be really hard for you to put $100 and divide that into, I don't even know, like 10 different penny stocks. I mean, sure, you're going to be very diversified, but at the same time, if your stocks go up and you have 10 different stocks for $100, good luck trying to make some money out of it. You're not going to make any money out of it. So it's like I said, there's no right or wrong here. It really depends. At the end of the day, I feel like nobody knows anything. We have our information, we have our biases, we have our the data from these companies. But at the end of the day, guys, it's up to you to be responsible and do it at your own risk, because nobody can guarantee for sure whether a stock is going to continue going up for the next 5 years, for the upcoming years, or 10 years or whatever, or down. So you really got to do your own research and accept the reality that you have to take the accountability, right? That's the word I was looking for, accountability for anything that you're doing. And with that being said, I hope you have good luck investing in stocks. I made a lot of money with stocks. Not a lot of money, right? But I made some money with stocks. I still invest in it to this day. I love it. But I don't feel like stocks is the only thing I can do, because unless you're super rich, say you have I don't know, maybe $1 million portfolio or $10 million portfolio or more than that, you have to do other things, right? You have to run your business. You have to, if you're not a business owner, you have your degree or career or whatever, or maybe you have other jobs, or maybe you do some work here and there. I don't really know, but I feel like it's like one thing completes the other one. You have to do a certain thing here to generate money, and then some of this money you put back here, and then you invest that money, and then that money here is going to generate you some more money, and then you can keep playing this game over and over and over. That's one of the ways that you can make more money, or hopefully get quote unquote rich. I don't even like saying rich these days, because I feel like rich is too broad. It depends on what you define being rich, right? But at least grow a portfolio or a capital or something. So yeah, hope you liked the video. If there's anything you'd like to say, we can react to more videos. I feel like we can do a lot of We can do a lot of video. We can do a lot of, oh my god, reactions when it comes to trading and options. I love options as well. Options is really good, although options is risky because you can lose all of your money in options, and it's so much more leverage than stocks alone, because stocks, it's spot market, right? Uh, but yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. I'm sorry for stuttering, guys. It's not my native language. I'm trying my hardest. Okay, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.